Will Smith in Netflix's action fantasy film Bright credit. Netflix reportedly paid $100 million for its film Bright, a cop buddy that blends gritty action with Lord of the Rings-esque fantasy. As the first reviews roll in, most critics seem to think the site should ask for a refund. Directed by Suicide Squads David Ayer, it stars Will Smith and Joel Edgerton as partners in a supernatural version of the Los Angeles Police Department. Smith plays a human who complains about being paired with an orc. Edgerton. The film is released tomorrow, and its dense mythology and unusual mashup of genres have left many critics bewildered. The plot has been described as borderline incomprehensible, The Guardian, hopelessly convoluted, Forbes, and half-formed Vulture. The film currently holds a 28% rotten rating from reviews aggregator Rotten Tomatoes. The Wrap branded it astoundingly bad, while IndieWire rated it as the worst of 2017. Meanwhile, Australia's news.com.au called it a pile of centaur droppings, and wrote that Netflix should ask for a refund. Variety's chief film critic Peter DeBruge was one of the few dissenting voices, praising Bright as the best Netflix original to date. DeBruge thought the film's central racial metaphor was so deep and profound it should inspire a whole university course. By contrast, The Wrap found the same metaphor profoundly stupid. 100 best S on Netflix, but do their opinions matter? Even if reviewers think its potential as a franchise starter is laughably small, The Hollywood Reporter, it seems the bigwigs at Netflix disagree. Bloomberg reports that the service has already committed to a sequel. Here's what the critics have to say. The Los Angeles Times, Bright is only interesting for how confused it appears to be in regard to its potential audience. Screenwriter Max Landis and director David Ayer have taken a premise that could have worked reasonably well as a family-friendly television series, mismatched buddy cops busting criminals in a fantastical version of Los Angeles, and have turned it into a violent, vulgar 2-hour, weighed down by heavy mythology. Read the review. The Telegraph. You'll either extend the latitude Landis and Ayer think they deserve, or you'll stare at it for 2 long hours wondering, amid the bullets and an awful lot of rainy confusion, why they think they deserve it. Bright never convinces you that it has thought through the rules of its alternate reality. It's stricken with a bad case of hybriditis, pouring together 2 immiscible genres, like gravy over jelly. Read the review. The Guardian. Some of it is exhilarating, some of it is borderline incomprehensible owing to mistimed editing and a terminally gloomy palette. The pace barely lets up, but sometimes you wish it would. For all its flaws, Bright is still a headlong leap into a bracingly different new world. Cinema could do with more of that. Read the review. Congratulations, Netflix, you can make a visually grotesque, dready, dull and hopelessly convoluted would-be franchise action just as well as the stereotypical Hollywood machine. Read the review. Bright is the best Netflix original to date. Ambitious, yet astonishingly well executed. It's a brilliant twist on an old dynamic that simultaneously supports an allegory about 21st century discrimination so rich, you could create a college course dedicated solely to analyzing how it operates. Read the review. The Verge. Bright is a series of disconnected action vignettes that work as standalone sequences, but don't hang together in any kind of meaningful way. It's impossible to not think of Suicide Squad. Similar failings as Bright barrels from one dark, noisy scene to the next. Read the review. Joel Edgerton and Noomi Rapace in Bright credit. Netflix, astoundingly bad in virtually every way, with desperate efforts to cobble its under-explained and yet somehow overcomplicated mythology into something coherent. Even Will Smith's irrepressible charisma can't compete with the unrelentingly muddy production design, the poorly conceived characters and a profoundly stupid racial metaphor that somehow amplifies stereotypes of actual ethnic groups. Read the review. IndieWire. There's boring, there's bad, and then there's Bright, so profoundly awful that Republicans will probably try to pass it into law over Christmas break. A dull and painy derivative ordeal. Read the review. IGN. The overall story feels rushed and incomplete. Landis' script feels timely, with issues of race, gender, national pride, and police brutality echoing throughout the film. There are times when this message can feel heavy-handed, but overall, the use of modern political issues set in this fantasy world works. Read the review. The film loses sight of whatever half-formed idea it had about how bad racism is. There are some legitimately fun touches, but I also don't think Bright has anything more coherent to say about the state of the world than, say, The Hobbit. Read the review.